Good evening, everybody. Busy time in the treasurer's office. We're working on settlement. Everybody has, all the local units, townships and cities have turned over their books and they're in the system, so we're able to take care of those delinquent taxes that have come over to us. We've sent out notices, and so it's just a busy time working on that. It's all going good. Dog licenses, I brought in a report for each of you. We're only at 2,629. That's where we stand as of now. And then I also brought in the foreclosure report. So you've got your, we had foreclosure. It occurred on April 2nd instead of the 1st due to our power outage on Monday. The 31st, we extended it a day so that people could get in and take care of those 2022 taxes if they needed to, and we didn't handle a few on the 1st. I made little notes on those reports. There are 5 houses. Most of the other parcels are just vacant land. I haven't had a chance to go around and take a look at everything, but that will be interesting.
Foreclosed, or are these due to be foreclosed?
They're foreclosed.
All of them?
All of them. 16.
What did we have last year, 3?
No, last year was like 6, 8. So not, yeah.
But only 5 of them are actual houses.
Only
right?
5 of them are actual
Is
houses.
that what you're thinking, Greg?
And I do know
Yeah.
the one gentleman owned 2 properties and he's deceased. So we're not kicking, nobody's living in the homes either. And we're not dealing with evicting anybody that I'm aware of.
So when it says taxes due and then interest and then total due, that's for the total of these 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, some of these, like with the house, it's not a whole.
Yeah, some of them aren't. So the vacant properties are real minor. The one that's the largest, and actually, Dr. Boggs, I was questioning this, it's in Lennon, the 11919-11921 Lennon Road in Lennon.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that was part of the demo.
Would be downtown, wouldn't it?
And that's why that one is so steep. That's the 0086000200404. So I'm questioning that property. I think we need to.
Wonder if that's owned by the village.
It was in the name UND LLC.
Well, do I have to look?
Yeah, so that one I was curious about. But that's why that one's so steep. It had a demo cleanup on it.
There's also one on the second page in Terry,
Yes, Britain one?
28,000,
Let me see which that.
right in the middle. No address.
River Road Fair.
And Perry, the 024.
This says vacant.
Yeah, and that one's steep. Yes, yeah. Believe it or not, I was really confused by that when I looked in GIS, and sure enough, Mike Dowler from the city has contacted me with interest in it. I thought it might be fun to get it. Have a little, I don't know, set up a camper down there in downtown when I want to do, I don't know. Oh, sorry, off track. The Perry, or
Yeah, Britain Road.
the Britain Road, that one is steep, and that's why the guy let it go. It's vacant, but they upped the assessment value because they thought it was, would be good for business. That it would be an area where commercial, like it would be more commercial property instead of a residential property. And the assessor really,
I thought that one went to tribunal.
I inquired about it, I got shot down, and the owner said, I'm not paying those taxes, and he said, I'm letting it go. I had contact with him. We were emailing last year.
There was another one in Perry Township the same kind of thing right across from the Ford dealership, and Tracy and I looked at it, cause it was a tribunal. That's it, I'll have to look at that. Maybe I'll see if
Yeah,
they need
and
a new
if you
assessor.
see something, I mean,
I didn't
and they can be pulled, if we find some kind of error or something, they can be pulled. If, you know, if we would find something,
When's the court date?
there's no court date now for these.
So not at all?
No, they're foreclosed.
I mean, to your question, Brett, you can, the assessor can set it, and then their recourse is to take it to the board of review, and then if
Right.
your decision
Right.
isn't reversed at board of review, then to the tribunal, which I know, Tracy and I, like I said, looked at one that, from Perry Township, that was on Lansing Road. So,
Okay.
that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if you have any other questions? Like I said, I haven't been around to look at them, but I believe there are 5 homes that are probably decent.
When they
fixer-uppers.
propose, does the state take them over then, or what happens at this stage? You
Well,
said
they go
that-
to sale. The sale is scheduled for Thursday, August 21st.
Oh.
It's an online auction,
Oh,
and they would be set at minimum, the minimum bid would be taxes and fees that are owing. And if they don't sell at that first auction, then there's a second auction where there's no minimum bid. And they can go for dollars. Yeah. And if not, then they would come to the land bank or,
So with 5 houses countywide, that doesn't really seem like too many,
No,
Two are owned by
Right.
someone
the same
deceased.
person, right?
right,
None of them will make it to the land bank. We'll end up with little scraps and parcels of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
It's not like what happens in Genesee County.
right. And especially these lots that are buildable, some of them are buildable. Those will be, I would imagine will go.
That the land bank will want these properties because then we're
Right.
responsible for maintenance and so on.
Right.
So
Which it doesn't sound like any of them will end up
it's
with.
maybe that orphan landlocked piece.
Right, and I haven't had a chance to look at that, but hopefully in those cases we can find a neighbor who would like it.
At least it rounds through for $10.
Right,
People buy those all the time.
Right.
The online thing, is a treasure, so I had all the
We've
time.
had a little bit of trouble getting rid of some weird parcels. Just today, we agreed to sell, somebody agreed to buy a piece that we own that's underwater. Don't ask me why, I'm just happy.
right, yeah, we're happy. There is one in Creek Point Circle there doing,
So that's it.
soon to be a circle, or possible circle,
It will be a city.
someday,
I hear that, we'll see.
right? But yeah, that would be a good buy for somebody. Anyway,
Back to dog licenses, so now where are dog licenses now? They're late, right?
they're late, so they're double, instead of 10, if they're spayed or neutered, they're 20. Instead of 30, for those that aren't, they're 60. Unless, of course, it's a new puppy. If it's a new puppy or they've just moved to the area, then it's considered non-common.
So, where are we at then? What did we budget for this year? Is it 80?
Yeah, somewhere in there. So
I wanted to say 85 or 86, but 80?
how about the people that have a dog and just don't get them? Nobody knows about it, is that it, or what happens that?
So the sheriff has instructed his deputies that as they show up to calls, they're supposed to be asking people if they have their dog license. So I think there'll be a lot more people coming in to get them.
The sheriff does what now?
He's gonna have people, if he shows up to some kind of issue, the police are called, the sheriff's department comes up, they're gonna ask people as one more thing, if they have their dog license.
Because I think I know a couple people that they just never got it.
Mhm.
Well, we're not gonna start like a tip line.
Yeah. To hire someone.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, I mean, I don't know who goes and checks it to see if they got it. I mean, that's what I
Well,
didn't know.
Yeah, at $10, how do you hire somebody? I mean,
No one has been.
we
checking
have,
them.
we've made 36,000, we can't hire somebody for 36,000 to even go get the rest. It just,
So as people engage with law enforcement, if they have an animal, they're gonna be checked and asked to go get it or cycle. So,
which might help, but I mean, only a small portion of, hopefully, the county is engaging with law enforcement and
Gotta
given
start
day at their
somewhere.
home.
I did think that once things settle down, my staff could even, as in between when we don't have a whole lot going on. Right now, we're too busy to spend the time, but if they do have some time where the phone's not ringing and they don't have other things to deal with, that they could go into our animal system and we can see, we can go right down the list. Yep, their license was through 24. We could, their phone number's right there. Hey Joe, I see your license expired in December and you need to renew. Can we do that right now? I mean, we could do
It
that.
sounds like a debt collector.
I know.
I know.
I'd be like, yeah,
It-
decline.
Yeah, it's a thought. It's a thought, and of course not right now when we're busy. But if they have some downtime in between other business, that they could easily call 15, 20 people like no time flat. I think.
So do we have a plan to get back on track, or are we just, is this gonna be our number going forward?
it's likely gonna be I imagine we'll hit close to 40 by the time this year's over, so we'll have to make cuts somewhere to compensate for it.
All right, on that happy note,
Yeah. Thank you.
thank you, Julie.
Sure. Thank you.
Well, that brings us to our first agenda item. I would look for a motion to accept the county clerk's year-end report and place it on file.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
Couple of
Caroline?
highlights. So, case filings are up for civil cases, felonies are down, PPOs are up, domestic cases are up as well. There's been not as many requests for death certificates, a lot more requests for birth certificates, and people are continuing to renew their or get concealed weapons. So, all in all, pretty healthy report. I'm sure Caroline will have additional things she might want to highlight on Wednesday, but that's my brief sketch of it.
She could check their dog license when they do that. All right, any other questions on the clerk's report? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same. We'll see that again Wednesday. I would look for a motion to approve the annual renewal invoice from BSB Communications Incorporated for the phone system software and upgrades not to exceed $6,648.19.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported.
Simply, this is our phone system. It's the first time it's been over 6,000, so you generally do not see it. It's just part of an automatic thing that we do, but it went up a little bit, so it's now over my spending limit, so now I have to give it to you guys. Standard stuff.
All right, any further questions on the phone system? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same. That passes, moves along. Our last item of business, I would look for a motion to approve resolution number 250403, authorizing publication of notice of intent to issue bonds.
So moved.
Support. Moved and supported, and we have,
So Shayna and myself have been working on trying to develop a bond proposal. This is the first of two steps that you will take. And they are looking for $10 million, of which 25% they will cover with their cash reserves, so bonding for $7.5 million. And anything over the $10 million mark, or over that 25%, they will be paying themselves. So the county's liability is $7.5 million. So what we have before you tonight is the intent to bond. So at this point in time, we do not have projections of interest rates or the payment schedule or things of that nature, because that happens between now and the approval of the right to sell bonds. And so we would probably do this similar to what we did last time for the MERS bonds, where after the second one is approved, there's a window, and then you give me flexibility to sell them based on the best interest rates of during a period or a window, which is what we did with MERS. There was a part where we weren't going to sell them because they went up, and then they shot down drastically over a 3-day period, and we sold the bonds, and then they shot back up. So we'll be looking to do something like that. Before you are 2 resolutions, one that has already been approved by the Pleasant View Board, and includes the language for the 25% payment and anything over it, and then a similar resolution to be approved by this board, because the county owns Pleasant View. It is a county asset, they are a component unit, and so they fall under our purview for bonding and the like. But the technical bond aspects I can answer for you to talk to you about, but Shane, I can talk to you about the actual addition and the building of what they want to do.
Is there anything you want to say, Shayna, or?
I think Dr. Boggs covered the bond well, and he's been a great support, so thank you for that. Just a project snapshot, if that's okay, just a quick minute. Sure. The plan designs you have before you today, nothing's changed since I've met with most of you, or for those of you that have attended our board meeting. Just wanted you to have a copy. We did complete our RFP for construction, so we have selected Spence Brothers for our construction project manager in this
And that is
process.
who did the courthouse for us.
Yes, yeah, so they're familiar with the county here, and they're familiar with our building. They did the building that we're currently in now. Just as a reminder, we're working with ELA as our architect. I believe I mentioned that to you before. So the next steps on our end would be to finalize the guaranteed maximum price numbers with Spence. Now that we've selected them, although we did spend a lot of time in the RFP process flushing out the estimated numbers that they presented to us, we feel pretty confident in those numbers. Hopeful timeframes, July for beginning construction, and then completion in December of 26. So my invitation to meet with anybody at any time stands open, so please just reach out and I can answer any questions anyone may have.
And just a broad overview, it essentially has 3 wings, but it's designed so that it would be symmetrical and have a 4th. And this is adding that 4th wing.
Yes.
And maybe, Shayna, if you could highlight just again the wait list that we have for our in-county
Absolutely.
residents.
I mean, it's a little bit of a moving target, but the target grows pretty much every day. Right now, we have approximately 50 people in county, hoping to get into Pleasant View for long-term care services, 50 people out of county, and then an additional 50 people who are interested, not quite ready yet. So we kind of take that out of the pool so that we know, we keep them up to date on us and our progress, and they like to reach out and let us know that, hey, one day I need services, but they're not ready yet. So a real number of people who need services today is 100, 50 of which are in Shiawassee County, and that's just the people who have called to put themselves on the wait list. We have very limited bed availability to serve the hospital need on things. And on any given day, we typically have 1 bed open up if we're lucky, and we tend to get between 5 and 15 referrals a day just from our local hospitals. So I could go on and on with the data points of the need, but the need for our community is there, and these are our local people we need to serve.
Thank you.
So what's the turnover rate for beds?
It's a little bit contingent on, short stay or long stay. So most of our beds, these are rough numbers, but about 80% of them make up long-term care, 20% short-term. Average length of stay, I've been there 15 years now, is drastically shortened when someone comes in for the short stays, like your rehabilitative services. If you had a hip, you needed more intensive therapy. When I first started, it was about 90 days on average. It's down to about 14 to 21 days on average. And a lot of that's insurance driven. So those beds tend to, and we don't have designated beds that you have to be these types for these specific, we just try to balance meeting both needs the best we can. The long term is just, you know, whether the family decides we can take care of mom or dad at home, or there's other arrangements made, they end up having a bed open that way, or unfortunately people pass on, and that's when those beds open. But typically the short stay, that 20% of our beds, they open up every 14 to 21 days after admission. That's just
Okay.
an average numbers.
So how long will it take to go through the 50 people wait list and counting?
We're probably admitting 5 over like a 6-week course if we're lucky. So and that's probably a stretch, maybe even less than that. Because you may have a big jump in the amount of beds that open, you know, a lot of people can take mom and dad home. So it's a really hard to kind of move that. I would probably be more comfortable saying 3 over a 6-week time frame would probably be more accurate, but it changes. It just really, there's so many variables involved.
3 beds every 6 weeks?
Yeah.
3 people off the wait list?
And then more add, so it's not like,
Sure.
you know, I've never seen the number go down on the wait list, I can tell you that. Yes?
What is the revenue taken in by insurance, Medicare, and what have you?
Yeah, I mean, our budget's around 26 million for the year. We're primarily made up of Medicare and Medicaid funding. 16% of our funding is the millage, so we're very appreciative of that. But those are our primary insurance sources. The short stay, the Medicare, there's different payer types within that, you know, Medicare Advantage, and there's different types within there. And I could meet with you and go further in the weeds with that, but in a broad sense, it's primarily that.
And I think it's important to note, especially since we have a couple new commissioners, the payments for the bonds will be made
Yes.
by Medicare, or medical care facility, not by the county. But because it's a county asset, we're essentially financing it for them.
Yes, and if I could add, Dr. Bucks, the millage that we have is a standing millage for over 30 years. We did not ask for anything additional for this project. It is the same millage we've had.
So the tax burden won't be additional?
No, and the current bond we have now is paid off in December of 26.
So that's the big difference between a bond and a millage. A bond is a liability that's owed, and it's hanging out there. It's like a mortgage, if you will. And the millage is your income used to pay it. And so in this particular case, they're almost done with their current project, which means they won't be making those bond payments anymore. They'll have their mortgage paid off, so to speak. And now they will have this new payment to make for the $7.5 million, which is substantially less than
Yes.
the total cost of the building to begin with, which was.
The total project, I want to say, was 24 million. I'd have to go back to see how much was bonded. I want to say 13 or 14 million, but I have to double check that.
So the new mortgage, so to speak, is about 7.2 million?
7.5.
7.5, okay.
Yes.
So, okay.
They're bringing 2.5 million more or less to the table and any additional overages in cash.
When did the current bond start, you know?
I want to say,
9 years ago?
oh, I'm sorry, say that
8
again.
or 9 years ago? 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's a 10-year bond.
Okay.
So the 10 years is paid December of 26.
And how many applied to the building application bidding process?
For the construction phase, 2. 2 did.
Was there a public hearing on that?
We've worked through the process. We posted publicly. We even went to a website to post our project. I'm sorry, I have to remember the name of it, but we put it on our website and a publication website for builders so they could see the project was live and we were taking bids for it.
Anything further for Shane?
Yeah, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Shana will be back on Wednesday.
Yes, I will.
She's always back.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, any further questions on the bond notice to bond? If not, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna comment, I think I need some more information. I'm not quite comfortable with it yet, but I think we'll get there. I will, at least.
Okay.
Those rules stand.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
You're not on this one.
Just me.
All right, that moves to Wednesday. Thank you. And if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
Pledge allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to our first call to the public for the Econ Physical Development Committee meeting. Hearing nobody, Mr. Pete Preston with the Community Development Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank
There were 18 zoning permits and 17 building permits, probably the slowest march in quite a while that we've had. So we'll keep an eye on that. As far as code enforcement, our system is acting up a little bit again, so I was only able to squeeze 12 out of there, but we're working on a more detailed report there. But something changed in the database. I can't pop the hood and tell what's going on. So we'll get back on that. We have two special meetings, one of the ZBA next Monday and one of the Planning Commission on Wednesday. We're still getting information out to the Planning Commission and the ZBA that results from a code enforcement in Fairfield Township. And then we have one regular meeting in Perry Township regarding a new asphalt plant that's being proposed. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
I just had one, oh, go ahead, Liz.
I just had a question about the date of the Fairfield meeting, the issue in Fairfield. Is that, are we talking about the one in Fairfield Township or
The meeting in Fairfield Township at their hall is the 10th.
the 10th, right?
The meeting here for the ZBA is the 14th, and the meeting for the Planning Commission is the 16th.
14th and 16th.
I believe they're all at 7.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. And as far as the 10th meeting, there's no township website that I can find. I've spoke with the supervisor, I've spoke with the former clerk. They're telling me there's a meeting on the 10th. I don't schedule their meetings, so I just to be aware
I'm
of
just
that.
clarifying. I
Yes.
appreciate it. Thank you for your work.
So Pete, you said on enforcement, you know, we've had this conversation about enforcement for years, but you indicated that you might consider making a proposal to the townships because we've kind of been stagnant as to what next as far as enforcement, a proposal where we could share in the cost,
Yeah,
maybe?
I think that conversation has been had, especially with Bennington Township. You know, my suggestion, our conversation the other night at the meeting was, I'm worried that if the townships get involved, they'll all adopt different general ordinances, which would become a nightmare to enforce at that point. They need to all have the same thing. That's what I was getting at when it gets wheels and starts to do. We just continue to do a lot of enforcement that, you know, junk and debris or somebody's stuff on their porch, and we really don't have we're not enabled to do that. So the bigger ones that take our time, Fairfield Township one, and that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of people, and, you know, working with Dr. Boggs, working with legal, working with the sheriff. We went out there with the sheriff's department, you know, fielding phone calls. I mean, that's a community-wide impact when something like the Fairfield issue happens, as opposed to my neighbor's got crap on his porch.
The Fairfield one in particular resulted in us getting a TRO in circuit court, temporary restraining order. So we're working to go through the legal process related to that one. And when something gets that bad, it goes from Pete to me. And so that's when we start taking other actions related to enforcement. And it enjoins them from using the property until it's resolved. So that's where we are with that one in particular. But we did have a discussion, and I think Cindy was on the email chain related to Bennington Township, and we remain open and ready. I think my response to them was to have their attorney, if the board wishes to pursue something, was to have their attorney reach out to Eric and myself, and we're ready to get started.
Well, I guess I'm bringing it up from a wider view than just Bennington, because as a county, it's not our responsibility.
No.
And we've had that discussion with Bennington, Scioto, and Perry. And I was at a meeting a few weeks ago, and I was talking to a commissioner from Livingston County, and I thought that just the township that I work for there did their own zoning. And he's looking at me and he's like, counties don't do zoning. And I'm like, well, they sort of do.
They do like
But some counties don't do zoning at all. Livingston, case in point, because it's not their responsibility. So I'd like to see us move along to either not do it or do it with some assistance to your office financially.
That's a conversation you folks can definitely have. If you know, if we back away from doing those enforcements, you know, it would save our office a lot of grief right now. But again, I don't want your phone ringing off the hook either. That's why we continue to work on it.
Well, I think from the meeting that we had, that the law is very clear, correct?
Well, about which part?
About who is
blight.
responsible for zoning
Blight or zoning
enforcement.
and-
Well,
or zoning.
blight, the kind that we all get calls on.
Blight is the responsibility of the township. It is the responsibility of the local unit of government that has policing powers. We have enumerated powers. So if we're not allowed to do it, if it's not specified in statute for us to conduct that, then we can't. And so townships and cities have what's called police powers. If it's not prohibited, it's allowed, and that includes policing of blight materials. Now they can assign it to us through a contracted agreement, we can enforce it. When it comes to zoning, zoning is the responsibility of the local jurisdiction. It is the responsibility of the city or the township or the village in which it resides. If they opt not to exercise their authority and they abdicate their power and authority, the county may take over that authority, which we have, because the other option is complete unzoned land, which means that there would be a lot of mixed uses and there would be no pattern to development. So you could have factories next to schools or other things of that nature. So it is generally in the best interest of the county to maintain zoning if the local units don't exercise it themselves. Now, that being said, it'd be better for them to exercise their own authority, or we should explore charging for it.
Well, that's kind of where I'm going with this,
Doesn't
because it's not
Wausau
cheap.
and Caledonia do their own zoning then?
Yeah, there are
Others do.
5 or 6.
5.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all the cities do their own.
But the
And
township
there's the 2 charter townships and the 4.
Venice.
Vernon, Venice, Hazelton.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So the county does 11 of the townships.
Correct.
Now Hazelton does their own zoning in both then?
Correct.
Oh, okay. I just
Caledonia,
a little
Wausau,
confused.
Hazelton, Venice, and Vernon do their own. Is that only because they're
Just because they chose to.
They just, okay.
They chose to take their powers back and do it themselves.
Okay.
And there's been the swap before. Venice, at one time did their own zoning and then handed it to the county, and now it's taking it back. So this can go back and forth.
Well, and I think, Pete, you've gotten a lot of complaints, and I know I have, because people were under the misunderstanding that it was the county's job, your job, or, you know, and it's not.
Right,
So I
but
think we have to be
historically-
very clear that we're doing it by default, not, and certainly not to any financial advantage.
I think the blight issue is definitely different than the zoning issue.
Right.
The blight issue is very, very time consuming, so we need to back off of it and concentrate on the other ones, and then, you know, continue to have the townships, you know, approach like Bennington did, to get some sort of action, going.
Yeah. Which in the blight, I think, is what, at least that's the calls, that complaints that I hear. So, all right, sorry to hijack that.
All right, any other comments for Pete?
Is revenue coming from the solar projects doing anything to benefit the zoning department, or?
That's not how it works. So the revenue comes in as general fund revenue. Now, it is a general fund funded department, but it's not one for one. So it's an allocation.
Okay.
We have some pretty significant changes here on a yearly basis. I don't understand why we keep going up.
Property taxes always go up. They increase by the rate of inflation, or
5%, whichever's higher, 3.1 this year.
Less.
they always go up. That's under the state law.
Well, that was proposal A, so ever since then.
Assuming the property values are going up, which generally they are.
Correct.
Statewide.
So I think we're talking about item A.
Taxable
Yeah.
value
All right.
goes up.
Yeah, so if I can get,
That's there.
so any more questions, general questions for Mr. Preston? All right, if not, we'll move to agenda items. And I would look for a motion to approve the 2025 total equalized valuation in resolution 25-04-04 and authorize the board chair and county clerk to execute the L4024, L4037, and any necessary documents.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Do I have support? I'll support that. So now let's discuss.
So every year you have a total valuation, and so the taxable value has gone from $3.6 billion to $3.98, almost $4 billion. And then based on our taxable value, it looks like we will bring in an additional $375,000, which, as you can see, has gone down from, or $350,000, which, as you can see, has gone down from over the last few years as things like depreciation have affected the solar farms. But because of Proposal A and because of taxable value, the amount always goes up. This amount of an additional $350,000 is barely enough to cover the inflationary costs that the county has experienced.
So the resolution does not have numbers filled out?
He's gonna have the numbers filled out by the time you arrive on Wednesday.
Okay.
And we will also have the 4037s, which are attached to the assessor's roll after the chair signs and everything else is culminated. The 4024 form, the state changed their process and we have to print it off from their system. And so I will have that and be here with those documents on Wednesday. The delay is that because of the way the confluence of time frames, the assessors still have until today to hand us their rolls. So we've been on, folks. We have 2 outstanding that have been rejected by our office for some balancing issues. And a lot of this has to do with folks that have started using the cloud system of BSNA, and there's some hiccups here and there. So we have one case where a assessor ended up with different parcel numbers from another unit in their database. So we're watching it closely.
So what the numbers that are in my memo are the projected estimates that Pete has looked at.
And when is the deadline to submit these forms?
End of the month.
We have to equalize by April 16th, and then that's when Scott Cunningham, your equalization director, will sign final documents and submit as well.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, we'll look for final numbers Wednesday if we move this forward. All in favor of moving this to Wednesday, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion moves to Wednesday. Thank you very much. All right, with that brings us to our second call to the public. Hearing none, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.